Hello and welcome to the Nicole Mason Show on dcradio.gov 96.3 HD4, where we are bringing powerful women, women who are movers and shakers in their respective industries and vocations, women who have overcome trials and now are triumphant, women who can share with you how to turn your setbacks into strategies for success. And I am excited today to share and bring to the Nicole Mason Show this awesome, powerful woman of God. Let me read a little bit of her bio. Dr. Constance Craig-Mason, Master Registered Financial Consultant. Yes, MRFC. She is the CEO of Concierge Financial Group and the co-founder of the Real Connected Company. As a dedicated financial consultant, award-winning insurance broker, passionate international speaker, and a 7-time Amazon best-selling author, she teaches her clients to correctly manage their money so they can live the life they want without worrying about money. I love this. She has received numerous awards for community impact in her field, including a medallion, quote, in recognition of excellence, service, and sacrifice, end quotes, from the Comptroller of Maryland. Oh man, that's so awesome. Dr. Constance has also received an honorary doctorate of philosophy for her eminent contributions to financial literacy, financial advancement, and entrepreneurship empowerment within the community. She was an honoree at the Black Business Review's 2019 class of 40 under 40. She was nominated for Financial Expert Speaker of the Year at the premier SpeakerCon convention in November 2019. And Dr. Constance is a graduate of the 2020 inaugural class of my sister friend and my girl, the Dr. Cheryl Woods Vocalize Women's Speakers Academy, and on it goes. But I want you to hear from Dr. Constance herself. So let me welcome you, Dr. Constance Craig-Mason, to the Nicole Mason Show.
Hello, Dr. Mason. How are you?
I'm doing well and so excited to have you today. Let's jump right in. I want to ask you, who is Dr. Constance Craig-Mason? And listen, I already know before I ask that question, because when people ask it to me, I'm like, that's so loaded because there's so many parts to our lives. But it's really important for me, for people to know who I bring to the Nicole Mason Show and why you do what you do. So share with us about your background and how you've come to this awesome industry where we certainly need more women and more women of color talking about finances and how to keep our money straight.
Thank you, Dr. Mason, firstly, for having me here with you. So I am, firstly, a woman of God. I am a wife of almost 17 years. I am a mom of all adult children, and I even have 2 little grandchildren out here. So I have a lot to live for, a lot to be passionate about. And I love how when you read the accolades, I had to sit back and just take it all in myself. Sometimes you've got to just encourage yourself by listening to what God has already brought you through. I did not grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. And this is part of my why. I watched my mom, as a single mom. She had 2 little babies, 2 little baby girls by the time she was 17. And I watched her, to grow up with your mom in a way. She struggled a lot. My grandmother struggled. When I look at the lineage of the women that came before me, they did the best that they could, with the resources they had. I watched my mom stretch a penny. She fed us. She got us school clothes, Easter, holidays, the whole thing. And I just watched her, get knocked down and get back up. And we call that resilience, right? And so I watched my mom do that. I watched my grandmother do it. And what I realized that, she was struggling, but she persisted in telling us, to make something of ourselves, to never give up. And I started Googling a lot of things, as I was growing up in my teenage years in high school, because there were things that I didn't know how to do, just regular basic needs, how to get a bank account, how to get a credit card, even how to get a driver's license. Those were not typical things that I saw in my circle. So I had to Google it. And I always say that Google owes me some money because they are forever in my story. But yeah, before I had one red cent to put towards personal development or professional development, it was Google, that taught me a lot of things about life, including eventually how to buy a house, how to start a business, and that's why I always believe that, if you're not happy with where you are in life, don't just sit there and be in this stuck, stagnant place. Use the free resources that are around you. Use your village, ask questions, just don't stay in that space, because that is one of the things that I felt like was my first and primary investment was me. Before I could invest in businesses and homes and whatever else tangible, I had to invest in me. So my why, I get up every day for my children, my grandchildren, to create legacy with my husband, of course, but to also see women win. It is very important to me to see women do well, because I have seen what it looks like to not do well, but I'm also a champion for personal and professional development.
That's so awesome. And it's so rich because there's so many things in that I could go so many ways. But I really want to ask you about, your mindset to do something different, your mindset to do something more, and what that took for you. Because sometimes when we are in family structures where you break out of the norm, or you do something different than what has been established, you can get some pushback and some opposition. So talk about what it took for you to say, it's got to be something more. It's got to be something different. And what it took for you to really go after that more mentally, emotionally, because all of those things are happening at the same time. So somebody listening may feel stuck, and they may feel like, well, if I go against my family structure, no one's going to like me. They're not going to accept me. And we know that can be so in family structure. So talk about the mindset shift that you had to go through.
Believe it or not, it came from going through traumatic experiences. Early on, I am a victor over molestation. I'm a victor over rape, domestic violence. And I also saw that growing up. And I went running toward God, first and foremost. I went to church because I believed that there were women in that church that were settle-minded, they were peaceful, they were happy. And I was a young single mom with babies on my hip, frustrated because I wasn't happy, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I had come out of a domestic situation. And so when I went to church, I found that these women, they seemed like they had everything that I wanted, which was the peace of God, resources, my sanity, and that was intangible, and when I would ask them, like, what's the secret? Like, what do I need to do? I had so many elder women to send me to that Bible. Actually, one of them bought me my first Bible, and she inscripted in it, my name and a sweet message. And I started to believe what God had said about me, because my reality was not looking anything like what the word said. But I believed, as I was watching these women, I was like, hey, if they say that this is what it's supposed to be, I have to get my identity in what he is saying that I am and what I am going to be. And I had to believe that, even though it didn't look like my current circumstance, And beyond that, I started speaking what he said about me, because we have to hear his voice, but we also have to hear our own voices repeating back into the atmosphere what he said. And then, of course, those words take shape and they have life. And so I started to see things change in my life around me as I was believing, as I was sowing, as I was speaking. I was like, wow, there's really something to this. I'm really starting to see my life shift and change for the better. And I just wanted to be better for my children. And so I knew if it was going to be something different, I had to start with me. And so that's why I also say about the personal professional development, it started spiritually, and then I started figuring, well, if there's something that I don't know, I have to figure out how to learn it so then I can apply it to my life, and then my kids can model after me. So I started doing whatever it was that I could and learning whatever it was so that I could be a better woman. So the mental piece came from the spiritual foundation because I had to believe what he said because it wasn't my reality yet. And so I had to be held out in faith. And so that has really, really been the foundation to everything that has come after that.
Woo, I feel that. I feel like now she's getting ready to start a revival on the Nicole Mason show. And it does not take much for me to go right there. And I appreciate the fact that you were seeking. And the one thing about change is when you seek change, God will present those change makers in your life. So talk about this angel of a woman that you met when you started, making this change, and she was in the financial industry. I appreciate that story. So share that with our audience.
Yes. It is actually a woman that I met from one of the churches that I went to, and I spent the most time at that particular church. And I never forget, I was in my early 20s. I had these little babies and I was seeking out a church home. And so this young lady I met at the church, and she was like, listen, I've seen you develop. I see you searching after more. I see you running after God. She was like, and everything you learn, especially about money, you tell other people about it. You telling people at the church, the cousins, the friends, everybody, you're saying, hey, did you know that you could do this? And did you know you could do that? And she's like, you're so passionate about it. Did you know you could actually make a career out of this? You could get paid by helping people with their money. And I was like, I don't know about that, because I was already working full time in the healthcare field. I was a manager and I had the small kids, and I was just like, I don't know. And she was like, you do it anyway. You may as well earn an income from it. And so lo and behold, she chased me for almost 7 years to get me to do this business with her and to learn more about money and teach people, because I was a single mom at the time. But once I got married, she hung around. She was like, I'm the kid's godmother. I'm whatever you need, because when you're ready, I'm going to be here to show you the ropes. And shout out to Lila Arthur if she's watching. She is one of my very first mentors in the business world. And she took me under her wing. I got my first license, which was a life insurance and health insurance license. Got that thing in like 2 weeks from signing up to enroll in that program. And I went out with her every night on the weekends, and we were sitting across the kitchen table from families. We were teaching them about money. We were showing them about how to read their policies and how to read their mortgage statements and how to invest. Like, we were literally knee to knee with families. And that was January of 2009. And I have not turned back since, because I have continued to advance my knowledge and I continue to pour that out in the community.
This is so awesome. And, really tell the audience why that's important, particularly for women of color, women who live longer than their spouses most of the time, not all the time, but the majority of time. But why is that so important from your vantage point, that we need to know how to manage our money, where it's going, et cetera, et cetera? Why is it important?
I believe that it is surely important for everybody to learn about money, everybody. However, I do believe that as minorities, there are some things that we are left out of. There are some things that we haven't seen in our midst. And so we have to search for it, like you said. And if we don't know who to go to or where to go, it's very frustrating. And so I believe that as a woman and a woman of color, that oftentimes we are the heads of households. I mean, that's a fact. We are heading up households. We have children looking at us. and we're budgeting money, we're paying bills, but we haven't the slightest idea about how to grow the money, right? We haven't the slightest idea if we're going to have enough for retirement. And we're often making these decisions, should I send my child to school, or should I use the money from my retirement? And we're stuck trying to figure out which way to go. And time waits for no one. The earlier we get started with managing our money effectively and investing for the future, the better, because time is on our side. Interest is on our side. Capital gains is on our side when we do it a lot earlier than later. But yes, we are outliving our spouses too. That is a fact. We are outliving our partners. And while we're doing it collectively as a team, that's amazing. Right. But we also need to know what's happening and how it works, and how we can get to what we call financial independence, which is that area where we're not worrying about money. And when I say worry about money, it doesn't mean that you're broke. It doesn't even have to mean that, but it could be that you're considering things for the future and you don't exactly know how to do it. That consideration can turn into worry. And we want to make sure that our mental health is intact. We want to make sure that our money is aligning with our beliefs, and our beliefs are aligning with our faith. And we have to be able to have mentors and people to go to help us make that happen.
This is so good. It's so rich. And I appreciate your spirit energy around this topic. Because as you know, when we start to talk with families about subject matters, sometimes that are uncomfortable, and, sometimes it's out of people's reach, and you are breaking them down, there is an approach that you have to have these kinds of conversations. So I just want to say, just listening to you and having sat across the table from many families talking about estate planning, which is a topic that, is around money to some extent as well. And just having the right kind of, spirit, right kind of personality, which you do, and just really being able to relate. And so tell me, when you've worked with families over the years, some of the myths that people have related to, well, I don't know if I should get a financial planner. I don't know if I should talk to a financial advisor. What if they take my money? All of these different myths about working with somebody to let them help you grow your money, as you just mentioned, but really sometimes just how to manage it, get a hold of it, know where the money is going. Talk about some of the myths that you've run into and that you can share with the audience to say that, no, that's not correct.
That's an awesome question. And there's another one that kind of is in that same vein of people getting confused with all of these types of financial professionals out there. You hear those terms like financial coach, you hear consultants, you hear advisors, you hear agents, you hear all of these different titles, and you have no idea where you belong in the space of these people. And so I always like to kind of break those down a little bit and addressing the myths at the same time. So one of the myths is, I don't have any money, so I don't need an advisor. I don't have the money, so there's nothing for them to manage and that kind of thing. However, we all have, at least if we're earning, right? If we're earning money, or if we have a business or we have revenue coming in, you always need someone to go to kind of let you know if you're on the right track or not. There is no need to be walking around in the wilderness of our financial situations without any resources, without any people that we can go to figure out, what should I tweak? Am I okay? Should I stay on this course, or what should I do? So when we think about some of these titles, right? So financial coaches are readily available out here for us, right? From very cost-effective means to some free resources that they provide online. But primarily, financial coaches kind of get you in the right mindset that it takes to be able to manage your money appropriately. Oftentimes, they teach you concepts, that you might not be familiar with. And they can help you with, budgeting, tracking your expenses. Some of them even help with credit, helping you to understand what it is, how it works, and how you can optimize it so that you can obtain assets that you might want to obtain, like having a home or starting a business. So financial coaches are like maybe the first ground, right? The first level that you could go to and feel like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing exactly, but I do make money and I have some things that I'm responsible for. And how can I do that better? So your consultants are more like you have a certain situation coming up and you're like, hey, I need to consult with someone. So I don't want to make the wrong decision. I need somebody to be like, hey, I see what you've got going on, but here's a new circumstance. And I think you should go this route or that route. That's what a consultant does. They consult on a matter or two. When you get to your advisors, so your advisors are the ones that can help you with a full comprehensive plan. So not just a circumstance, not the budgeting, tracking, and credit, but they can help you to figure out, okay, here's the assets that I have accumulated. Maybe it's your 401k plan, your IRA, or something of that. You already have something established and you're like, hey, I want to make it better. I want to see it grow. I have these children and grandchildren. I want to be able to plan for them. I want to advance my business and I don't know if I should launch a new product or add a partner with me, right? These are the kind of things that they can map out in a comprehensive plan. And if you do have investments, they might be able to do a rollover of some sorts from one custodian to a new custodian. And maybe they have better offerings for you with that same money, right? And then they can talk to you about how you can contribute more or you can offset your tax liabilities, right? And we often coordinate with other professionals like Dr. Mason, estate planners, bankers, CPAs. You need a financial team. I don't care if you make $50,000 a year or $5 million a year. You need a team because there's going to be people that know things that you might not even know. You need these things in place until you have a conversation. So oftentimes you'll find that there's a discovery call, at least, that you can get on that they may not charge you for. So you can tell them what your circumstances is, what your goals are, and then they can kind of guide you. You can do this on your own with a little guidance, or we could take it over for you and do it for you. So I believe that once we get clear about these different types of professionals and what it is that they do, then we can kind of be proactive and say, yeah, let me go ahead for maybe 2022. Let me go ahead and have a conversation with someone and figure it out.
Yeah, that's really good. And, I thank you for sharing about those differences between those different people and their titles. But I also hear that there are different levels. So if you're at this level, you may want to try this. If you're at this level, you may want to try that. And I think that's really good. But I also, I want to give you the space to just share, what does the process look like if someone says finally, okay, I think I want to do this, what should they be looking for in someone to help them? What are their credentials? I mean, sometimes we don't know what that person should have to serve as, my financial person. What are the credentials or what should I be looking for? Are there any red flags that I should be looking for? Share with the audience what you would recommend, when they're looking for somebody such as yourself. What are the background that they should be looking for, the credentials?
Absolutely. So financial coaches, right? They don't have regulatory things, so that financial coaches don't have to have a license. So that's why oftentimes you will see that someone can take their life's experiences and they can also take, knowledge from going to courses and things of that, and they'll be able to help you because they know a little bit more than you do. So financial coaches, you want somebody to have some kind of real life experience or that they have gone through some coursework or something. You can also find that out like on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn shows us a person's professional profile, organizations that they are a part of, things like that. Persons who have licenses like insurance agents, advisors, consultants, things of that nature. They will have designations that you can look up. So one of them that you referenced earlier was the MRFC. So that's a master registered financial consultant. And we have to take an exam. We have to have a certain number of years of experience in the field. We have to have ethics, so they do background checks and all of that. And so they vet these advisors who take these exams. Financial advisors have something called broker check. So if you Google broker check, you'll be able to go on there and you can put in, if you know the advisor's name, you can put the name in. Or if you know the firm that they work for, you can put the firm name in, and it will pull up the whole history. It's public record of these licensed advisors, and that goes from advisory firms and licensed advisors. And it will tell you where they work, what they specialize in, if they sell securities, which are investments, or if they don't sell securities and they just give advice. So there's kind of two lanes. And there are some hybrid licensed advisors that also sell advice and sell the security financial products. And so they will have designations, they will have exams that they will have taken. And you can see that they passed or failed. You can see all of that. And so I feel like if you want to definitely do research, you can go to Broker Check, you can go to LinkedIn and look up financial advisor consultants and kind of just look at the backgrounds there.
Yeah, that's great. That gives people a great start, to try to figure out where should they start. And so our time is wrapping up, and I want you to be able to share with the audience how they can get in contact with you. If you have any books, ebooks, anything that could be a way for them to get an introduction to you, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Nicole, for that. So as far as getting in contact, I'm all over social media. I try to keep things consistent. So my profile names for all platforms is C. Craig-Mason, C. Craig-Mason on all socials. My company name is Concierge Financial Group. And so I do have a webpage, and it is www.concierge, F as in Frank, G as in girl.com. So you can find me on my website. I do have several books there, everything from spiritual financial concepts to collaborative book projects that I've been a part of. One of the collaborative book projects that I hosted at the beginning of this year was called Money Talks. So that book is a collaborative book of Black married entrepreneurs that came together to share how they've overcome challenges of love, money, and entrepreneurship. So we wanted to put that on during the pandemic to inspire other entrepreneurs to keep going, keep thriving, to use your collective village to get credibility, visibility, and profitability even. And so that book project came out earlier this year, volume 1. And we are also working on volume 2 right now that will launch during the month of February, very intentionally, for Black History Month and also Valentine's for couples. And so we'll have volume 2 coming out, all of which you can find out from my pages or my website. So I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to come on and share about what I'm passionate about, women's empowerment, entrepreneurship, financial literacy. It is my core philosophy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really appreciate you sharing. And I know that 2022 is going to be a banner year for you and your company. So we're excited about that and have to have you back when you start to roll out all of these great initiatives that you have on the table. But I want to thank you for being a guest on the Nicole Mason Show. We're always excited when we have powerful women such as yourself on just sharing what you love to do and making an impact doing it, using your influence for good, and making a difference in the lives of people all around you and around the world, actually, because the World Wide Web connects us to people all around the world. So very thankful for that. And so thank you all for tuning in again for the Nicole Mason Show. We will certainly be back with another powerful show. You can connect with me across social media at Nicole S. Mason, ESQ, Mason, ESQ, website, NicoleSMason.com. Join us again for another episode of the Nicole Mason Show.